How nice is Obama when there is no camera around? In 2008, I raised money for his first campaign, with a few of my more political friends. Nothing too big or impressive, but not bad for a very rural area. Obama stopped through our little town a couple of times that year, en route to bigger cities and events. Both times we were able to raise many thousands of dollars for the campaign. I have always been a registered, devoted and militant independent, voting for the caliber of the individual and their intellect, versus the party. Because of my job at the time, I had worked with a lot of nationally known politicians from both parties, and I had learned to equally dislike all of them for different reasons. In short, the Dems tended to be pedantic, boring, and snobbish. The Republicans were definitely more fun to hang out with, but were typically very arrogant, dim-witted, hypocritical, and full of crap. So, I didn't have any preconceptions about Obama, and my political experience had taught me to distrust all politicians, so he was already under suspicion before I met him. I was not terribly motivated by that particular election or the issues of the time, and I wasn't even positive who I would have voted for, until the day that McCain chose Sarah Palin as his running mate. And the thought of such a far-right, dim-witted, dogma-driven, nut job being just one old man's heartbeat away from the presidency was just too much risk. Anyway, I decided to help get Obama elected. On his next campaign stop in my little town, he met with me and my friends to thank us for the help and support, and each of us got to spend about 10 minutes with him. I already knew he was extremely smart from his resume and speeches I'd heard, so I had no need to test that. So, when I got my turn with him, I thought I would just test his ability to deal with unexpected adversity and his ability to make a personal connection with people who are more independent, like me, and may not be entirely tuned into all his core messages. He shook my hand, with a firm grip and big genuine smile, and we made the usual introductions and chit-chat. He then asked me what was on my mind and what issues I cared about that caused me to want to support him so generously. I told him, honestly nothing. He looked at me a little funny, and I said, I'm a wealthy, white, straight, male with typically centrist or conservative thoughts on the economy, taxes, etc. I'm a proud firearm owner. And, I really hate all the political correctness that seems to be getting more and more ridiculous all the time. So, how is your message and your platform going to reach me? He looked pensive for a moment, and then he cracked a bit of a smile. He said, do you like to watch sports? I said, some, I draw the line at watching golf and bowling. He laughed and said, how about college football? Sure, I love it. His smile widened, and he said, then I think, perhaps, we have something we can agree to do together. What's that? I asked, curious to see where this was going. If I get elected, I promise to do everything in my power to get rid of the BCS system in college football. We both laughed and then talked for the remainder of the time about football, the silliness of the BCS system, how it would be cool for football to have December madness kind of like basketball in March. Time was up, we shook hands again, and he put his arm around my back as we walked out of the room together, like two old friends. As we were rejoining the crowd, he said, thanks for that. I think that was the most fun I've had talking about policy in the last few weeks. This stuff can get quite boring. I was struck. He was such a cool, laid-back, friendly character. Smart, well-read, worldly, maybe a technocrat, but also really cool. Ultimately, the President of the US represents all of us and our whole country to other world leaders. The strength of their character and their morals goes a long way in the negotiating power of the US. I can't say that I agreed with all of his policies, but I did vote for him. I didn't regret it for a day, and he represented our country with great effectiveness and dignity and gave the US a good reputation.